going to be talking about commas. So I have my friend here, Mr. Comma Man, and he's here to tell me in what ways I use commas. So I'm sure this is review for most of you, but I have 4 different sayings here to help us remember where commas are used. So, Comma Man says, I always have a plan. I stand between a list of names like Anne, Sue, and Dan.
Yes.
So where do I need to put my commas? Eddie.
After Anne, after Sue, and
Is that it? Or do I need more? I think you're right. So I stand between a list of names like Anne, comma, Sue, comma, and Dan. I am helpful at any rate. I stand between a city and state. Who can give me an example of a city and state and where I put my comma when?
Michigan is a small town.
You're going to think about a city and a state.
Okay, New York City.
New York, right? Right.
After
So where do
New York, you do a comma because and a uppercase letter because it's a place.
So where does my comma need to go?
After New York City.
And like you said, I loved your point about capitals. We always need to make sure that we have capital letters when we are talking about names. All right. I always have a home. I stand between thing 1, 2, and before the 3, I roam. So that's just talking about a list of things. If we have more than 2 things, we put a comma after the first and second and before the third. So it's similar to this one about our names. In a date I do not fear. I also stand between the day and year. Who can give me an example of a date and where I put the comma? Aaron?
February 14th.
What's my year?
2019.
February 14, 2008. Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Is that an important date?
No.
Just a random one? Where do I have to put my comma? After February.
After 14th.
Right, I stand between the day, which is the 14th, and the year, which is 2008 in this example. So those are 4 different ways that we can use our commas. So who can remind me if I have where do my commas need to go? Daniel.
Between corn and beans.
Between corn and beans. Do you need another one?
No.
Grace.
After beans.
After beans. Remember, we need to put our commas between thing 1 and 2. If I have this sentence, what is that that mean?
Let's eat grandpa.
Let's eat Grandpa.
Oh.
Let's eat Grandpa.
I don't want to eat my grandpa.
Let's eat Grandpa. What?
You don't taste good.
Come in.
Well, it can be two things. We're eating grandpa or we're gonna eat with grandpa.
Well, in this case, without the comma, it means that we're going to eat Grandpa. That's why commas are so important, because we can lose our meaning and things can get super crazy, like we're going to eat Grandpa. So, how can my comma save the day?
No.
Edward.
Let's
Perfect. So, I'm addressing Grandpa. I want to put a comma. So we need to put our commas right before the names of the people that we're addressing as well. So now what does my sentence mean? Eli?
like you're saying, let's go eat grandpa.
Yeah, so you're talking to Grandpa and saying, let's go eat.
Let's eat grandpa.
So instead of eating Grandpa, now we are eating with Grandpa. That sounds a lot better to Grandpa. All right. I have a worksheet that we are, not a worksheet. We are going to do readings and closings. Like if I'm writing a letter. So if I have, where do I put my commas? Gracie. Okay. After sincerely. So that's another extremely important use for our commas when we are writing letters. So we have our use between the city and state, when we have a list with 3 or more words. We are going to use commas after a greeting and the closing of a letter, and in our dates. We're missing some commas. So I want you, I'm going to draw sticks. And I would like you to tell me where I need to put the comma. My first card says hammer, nails, and screwdriver. Where do I need to put the comma?
He's drawing sticks.
Number 7.
Between hammer and nails
Between hammer and nails
and after nails.
and after nails, absolutely. Oakland, California. Number 4. After Oakland, because it is a city and a state. Dear Builder. Number 8. After Builder, because why?
Because if you did it right there, it's like you're saying, like, if it's a dear builder and then I need, dear builder, I need, that's the thing I need.
Okay, and it's the beginning, it's a greeting of our letter, right? Number 9. January 6, 2012. What's my number 9? After the 6, because our comma stands between the day and the year.
That's what mine's from my birthday.
Your friend Tom. Number 12.
That's for your friend.
Your friend, comma, Tom. Absolutely. Sincerely, Bob. Number 15.
Before sincerely, like after sincerely.
After sincerely and before Bob, right? Because it's the closing of our letter. Blueprints, shovel, and drill. Number 3.
Blueprints, comma, shovel, comma.
And drill. The construction worker used his saw, screwdriver, and hammer to build a new shed. Number 7.
After before saw, screwdriver, and after screwdriver.
After saw and after screwdriver. Perfect. Number 9. She grabbed her tape measure, digger, and toolbox and got right to work. After tape measure. After digger. And got right to work. Perfect. All right. Number 14. When learning to be a construction worker, the man practiced using nails, screwdrivers, and hammers.
After nail,
Okay, after nails
screwdriver.
and screwdrivers. Perfect. Okay, raise your hand if you have not answered a question yet. Reddick. Number 1. Place the comma in the correct spot. Dear Mary. Where do I need to put the comma? After Mary, right? Because it's a greeting in our letter. Alex, number 2. Sincerely, Jason. After sincerely because it's a closing of our letter. Aaron, this one right here, number 1. Yep, because it stands between the day and the year. Number 3, Amy. Right here, December 12, 2012.
Do I go up there? No. After the 12.
After the 12, because it stands between the day and the year. Okay. Olivia, number 2 here, Nashville, Tennessee.
After Nashville.
After Nashville, because it stands between our city and state. Finally, Ryan, number 3 right here. Well, you guys can do with commas what you remember from what we just went over.
He didn't say go.
Just waiting till everyone is quiet and listening so that we have our instructions down. We understand what we need to be doing. Okay, so right at the top, it says insert the commas in the sentence below. Remember, commas are needed when? When do we need commas? Who can remind me? Alex. Okay, after our greetings and closings in a letter. Eli?
Cities and states.
Between a city and a state. Penny.
Dates.
Okay, where does it go in the date?
By December 12, you put the comma at the end of the 12.
Between the date and the year. Excellent. Abby.
Right.
Yep. I think Alex said that one. What about if I have a list of things, Abby? Where do my commas need to go? If I have a list of 3 or more things. Yep. Excellent. So it needs to go between the first and the second thing and before the third. Do you have another one, Eddie?
Well, it's not that, but causes usually go after nouns or adjectives.
Okay. That's a good observation. one last one, remember? Let's see, Grandpa. Grace.
After like, what he and you want a comma.
If you're talking to somebody or referencing someone. So there is one that is kind of tricky on here. It is number 2, watermelon, a refreshing fruit, is nice to eat on a hot day. Where do I need to put those commas? Where do I need to put my commas in that sentence? Gracie, give me one. Mm-hmm. So we need to put one after fruit. Where does my other comma go? Quinn.
After refreshing, the refreshing adjective and adjective sometimes means if you were talking about like grass, like green soft grass, green comma soft grass.
Right, so when we have a list of 2 or more adjectives, then we are going to put a comma there. Addie. After watermelon, because we're describing watermelon. So think about if you're going to read it, when you pause. A pause is a good indicator that there is probably a comma there. So I wouldn't just say watermelon, a nice refreshing fruit, is nice to eat on a hot day. I would say watermelon, a nice refreshing fruit, is nice to eat on a hot day. So these ones are a little trickier than the ones that we reviewed. I have all the confidence in the world that you guys can handle it. If you're